is Jenny from the Sewing Palace in Helena, Montana. Today I'm going to show you how to make a star in a star block. I'm using the book Double Dozen by Kate England, which is right here. And I have the beautiful quilt behind me featured on this rack right here. I have a couple different colorways of this gorgeous block called Star in a Star. The colorway that is in the quilt is a traditional colorway, real warm and natural tones. The one below it is a bright contemporary colorway with K facet fabrics. And then I have this lovely one behind me featuring some fabrics from Camelot that have little moose and moose tracks all over it. And this beautiful red and white. So this table runner, the quilt, and this block are all the exact same block, and they're featuring the Star in a Star. So come on over and I'm going to show you a couple of gadgets that are super helpful for you to have. Of course, you'll need the Double Dozen book by Kate England. You'll need a rotary mat, which I have located below here. It's a rotating mat. You'll need a nice sharp rotary cutter with a new blade so you can cut your fabrics. You'll need some fabrics. You'll need a marking utensil. This is a friction iron erasable pen. You're going to mark the backs of the fabric and then it will iron away when you're done. You'll also need some best press. This is lovely. You can get it in different scents or non-scented, but it does stabilize your fabric very well, slows down the fray, and helps by a stretch not be so stretchy. You'll need a 1/4 inch presser foot. This is a Bernina 1/4 inch presser foot. It's Bernina foot number 37, and when you line up your fabric even along the edge and you sew either side of this foot, it's a 1/4 inch. It's very accurate and a great foot to have when you're quilting. You'll need some thread snips, and these are some cute little thread snips made from a company in Japan, and they have a little leather sheath that goes over the blade. So you'll need some sort of thread snips. And then we are going to be making this block a little bit differently than what is traditionally stated in the book. We're going to be using some Bloc-Loc rulers, flying geese. And the sizes that you'll want is the 1.5 by 3 finished Bloc-Loc ruler, flying geese, and then the 3 by 6 Bloc-Loc ruler with the flying geese. So you'll need both of those rulers to make these. And we're going to make them a little differently because we're going to make 4 at a time. So at the bottom of this video, you'll have a link to get this document, but it's called the No Waste Method. And you will be yielding 4 of the units. You start with a big cut and 4 small cuts, and we're going to go through this sewing process, and then you'll end up with 4 geese. Let's look at our block just for a moment over here. And if you look at this block, here's the center. This is a flying geese unit. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So we need 4 of the small one, and then we need 4 of the large. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm going to show you how to do that. When we're looking at the larger one, you're going to be using the 3 by 6 finished size. The small cut is 4 1/8, and that will be the piece that is the triangle on the side, so it's darker. And then the large cut will be lighter, which is 7.5 inches. And if you look at the breakdown on your block here, it's piece E and piece F that we're talking about. So instead of using the cuts in there, we'll use the Bloc-Loc cuts. So here's my large piece. This is 7.5. And then I have 4 dark pieces that are 4 1/8. You're going to take those pieces and you'll take 2 of them, line them up, and they will overlap a little in the center, and you will mark a diagonal line from point to point. After you mark that diagonal line, you're going to sew on each side of it. So I've actually done that here below. So I have a diagonal line, and I've used my 1/4 inch foot, lined it up, and then sewn on each side of the line a 1/4 inch away from the line. Once you've done that, you're going to cut this apart. So you will line up a ruler. This ruler is just a little bit short, so I'll just slide it along and use my line as a reference, and I will yield 2 pieces that look like that. You will then press them, and I'm going to be using a woolly mat to press. I absolutely love these. And when you press these, you'll want to press them so that it looks like a heart when it's all done, and the seam is in that direction. So this will go up, and this will go up. So there's my heart. The And remember, I got 2 cuts out of this, so I will have a total of 2 of those units. Once that unit is completed, we're going to add another piece of fabric to it. So we're going to take one or more of our squares and we're going to line it up so that it's sitting right in the corner and we have a diagonal line. I'm going to go to this Bernina 780 and sew 1/4 of an inch from each side of the line. And just feed it along here. Just sew a little faster, just because we can. Now we'll rotate it, and I'm just going to come back the other way. See how beautifully that feeds? I'm using a Bernina 780 and a 37 foot that's called a 37D. Then I'll get my little thread snips and I will cut my block out of the way. Here he is right here. So I've marked the line, I've sewn on the diagonal, and again, I'm going to cut that apart. And I will yield 2 from that half of the heart and 2 from the other half. And when you press it, I'm going to press it just like so, and you'll have a unit that looks like that. Once it's pressed, you will get your 3x6 flying geese ruler. So if you're looking at your block, here's the large portion and those 2 triangles. The beauty of this ruler is it locks right into place. So I have that seam locked right in here. It locks in this diagonal each point. So I have 3 points that it will lock right into place. And then I will trim all the way around the block. So this is a finished 3x6. Actually, before it's sewn into the quilt, it's 3.5x6. So let's go put that in our block over to the side so you can see how that would go together. There it is right there. So you'll sew these together, but let's just talk a few minutes about the smaller one. It's exactly the same as the larger one, and you will do the exact same process of locking in using the smaller ruler. I just want to show you a couple of choices for the fabric for that other block, and one way I would maybe cut multiple layers of fabric. So I've got this, which is my center. This is my flying geese and my light that we just did. And then this is actually going to be combined with this for my smaller flying geese. So I have a little strip of fabric here. And I know I need to cut 4 pieces if I look at my chart. And I'm looking at this smaller chart, the smaller flying geese unit. And I need to cut 4 2 5/8. I've got a strip here that's plenty long enough. And what I'm going to do is just prepare it for cutting multiple layers. So I'm going to get out my favorite pressing mat and my best press, and I'm going to spray it so that it's damp, fold it over, spray it, and spray it. Now you might think that's a little excessive, but that works great for me. It really stabilizes the fabric. It doesn't allow it to stretch as easily. It does prevent the fray, and it works wonderfully. Now before you cut, you do want to make sure that these layers are all dry and they're not wet, because that is the time that they can stretch. So I'm just taking a little bit of time ironing, getting all that best press soaked into my fabric so it does its job. Once I've got that all folded, so it's all folded, I've got 4 layers there, I'm going to cut my 4 2 5/8 inch squares. So those will lay together like so. They're nice and flat, and I'm going to be cutting 2 5/8. So 2 5/8 is a tricky measurement because it's usually not on all the rulers that are out there. This is a Creative Grids ruler, and it has 1/8 inch marks. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim a little bit off each side. And I'm trimming it bigger than 2 5/8. So that would be 2 3/4, 3 inches, anywhere in there. So I trim 2 sides and remove the excess. Then I'm going to rotate it so that those 2 sides that I just trimmed are now going to lay right along the edge of my ruler. So if you can look closely here at our ruler, we have a 2 inch mark. There's the 2 1/2. 2 5/8 is just 1/8 over from there. So if you look closely, we're at 2 1/2, 2 5/8. If we look down here, we need to slide it so that we're at 2 5/8. The other beautiful thing about these Creative Grids rulers is they have a little elbow right in that crook, and you can line that elbow up and make sure you're cutting 2 5/8. So I'm going to cut that for you. And then you have all 4. Wasn't that slick? You got all 4 all at once, and they're nice and accurate, and part of that was just because I used the best press to do that. You'll have the same process that we started with the other one. You'll yield 2 hearts that look like that. You'll lay this like so. You will mark it, and let me just show you the marking from point to point. And you just need a line that you can see. And you'll sew on either side of that. We can do that real quickly. So we're on one side of the line. And we'll pick it up and move to the other side of the line. There we go. And we're off. Isn't that cool how I can sew without a presser foot? Sewing with a start-stop button. It's awesome. Alright, I'm just cutting my little block out of there. So now I have that block, and we're going to cut that apart and trim it down real quickly. So here we are cutting that in half, pressing like so. Stay tuned while I press to the side, and then we'll trim it down and you will see a lovely flying geese unit. Here we are, locks in, and we will trim all the way around your block. Notice how I've tried to teach myself to cut with both hands. Sometimes that's helpful so that you don't have to pick up or move your block, or you can get a rotating mat to make it a little easier. And there I have a beautiful flying geese unit. Let me show you where it lives in the block. It will go right here. So when you go to sew your block together, you'll sew a row here, a row here, a row here, and then sew those together. You'll do the same over here, so there'll be a row there, this whole row sewn together, and then this whole row sewn together. And then you press it, and voila, you have a beautiful star and a star block. Thanks for signing in. Stay tuned.